3rd and 10 after back-to-back incompletions. Minshew. He sets to fire deep. And this is caught. Touchdown. Kenneth Gainwell, his first touchdown on the year.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Here we are, show number 3 of the John and Phil show, for lack of a better name still, but that's where we're at here. We're winding down the season here, season 1, opening season of Madden 23, coming down the stretch here, just finishing up week 14 and getting into a little bit of the playoff race here coming up for the AFC, NFC this week. And John, what do you got before we kick that off?
You're right. The season has flown by. So, it was kind of surprising when I looked and we're in week 15, which means in 3 weeks, I got to figure out something to do for a couple of weeks because I won't be in the playoffs for sure. So that definitely happens. And man, last week, I got to work on my hot takes because just about every hot take I had blew up. I had some hot takes, on Spencer in Denver, and I think he got walloped. And then, man, Peter has been in my DMs like nobody's business because apparently my production staff didn't do enough research on his passing game. So we did a little research, and it is true on third downs on the west side of the stadium with the wind at his back, Peter is number 1 in passing. So I did a little more research, so he should be happy that we recognize that now. So
yeah, and as much as Peter's been blowing up your DMs, I've been getting DMs from Jacob letting me know about Minshew Mania and how thankful he is that we suspended his quarterback. And, honestly, I told him, I said, I never had a doubt in you, Jacob. That's part of the game. You just got to go out there and roll with what you got and see when you do that, you can get a win still. So
that's kind of the fun of the game, I think, is, in real life, we have teams. Probably one of the funnest seasons for me as a fan in the NFL was the year that Brady was suspended for 4 games and watching the team go out there and figuring out a way to win 3 out of 4. And then, of course, speaking of big cheaters, so Ray's serving that huge suspension. So I think we've never suspended 2 people from the same position in the history of the league. And we suspended both of his quarterbacks because his backup quarterback is a Hall of Famer. So it's going to be interesting. I think, what's he going with? Henny? I think it's who he's running with. So,
yeah, that was what was that? Tom Brady's Deflategate year, or was that when he went down with an injury with his knee from a low hit? I remember 2 of those seasons.
Well, the low hit that would have been daggone. The guy that ended up going to Kansas City, Matt Castle.
Yes,
Matt Castle's year, and again, that was a good year too because we were all supposed to be dead. And so that's what makes it fun. And I kind of like it too. I kind of like it. Like right now, the Dolphins, since we are dead mathematically, I'm running some of our, some of the halfbacks that I'm going to run next year, get them some XP. In fact, kind of good segue to talk about, this time of the season, people that are like me, that are out of the playoffs, next year you might be in the playoffs, and so still go out there just like a regular club would. Go out there and try to do your best, and build some experience. Maybe you'll unlock a dev trade for a guy that might be part of your run next year. But we all know what happened in the NFL when the Eagles, threw a game. Doug Peterson was unemployed for a couple of years because of that. So we don't want to see that here. Go out and have fun, do the best you can. If you're out of the playoffs, this is a great time to try that playbook you've been thinking about, or go out there and see if you can figure out some plays or whatever, like I said, put some other guys in, but it's still, it's not a time to quit because we ain't quitters.
Yeah, I don't think we've had an issue with that here in GOI, thankfully. I've been noticing some of the weeks where, maybe a starting QB has thrown a couple picks that some people have paused and thrown in their backup and put in some other position players to get some experience or to try something new. Obviously what you maybe thought you knew so far this season isn't really working. And so it's really a good idea to try some new ideas and tendencies, and you might discover something, that you might not have known before. I always like getting into the playoff time because, for me, I was kind of just an average player to start, but I just started watching every playoff game, everybody that was better than me, figuring out, well, what's this, what's that, and then putting it all together. And certainly Madden's a learned game. I know a lot of the things that I've learned and spent time on in the past have translated over into the new editions. Obviously, knowing all the stuff that I know, I kind of pick up on some tendencies maybe faster than others have. And that's what really has led to a lot of teams that are probably doing well right now have picked up on. But it's certainly a learned game. I think if you do put the time in the practice game or watching others who maybe are doing good or better than you of what to do, you can inhabit those into your game, make your game better, and then successfully keep getting better as the seasons go on. And it's just, you got to be willing to put in the time. There's no doubt about it. But I can tell you now that where I am now, the time that I spend for the game is getting less and less because it's stuff that I've already spent time on and learned and figured out. So the playoff is probably the best time of year, especially if you don't make it. Watch every game, watch at least the users you admire the most, or whose game that impresses you the most, and take some of their habits and build it into yours during the off season and come back out ready to shine in season 2. So do you want to go NFC or AFC playoff race first?
Yeah, I was gonna say, speaking of playoffs, I guess we can start up with the NFC. It's in front of me. So, and it looks like I think Green Bay and the Rams and Tampa Bay, even with his suspension, all those guys seem pretty locked up. But then after that, we got a traffic jam. So, which is great. I mean, shows the how much the league is kind of leveled out a little bit. There's even I have a couple wins. So I guess really the only division leader that I see that is in a still kind of undecided would be with the Giants in their division at 6-7. Had a pretty tight game versus Washington. That was just a one-score game, 24-17. So it could have easily flipped the other way. And he's got what? The Vikings, the Colts, and then he's got another divisional game against the Eagles coming up to finish the season. So he's probably got a little bit of, he's going to have to be on his A game to keep that spot.
Yeah, I think the playoff race is a 3-team race for 1, 2, and 3. You got Green Bay, the Rams, and the Bucks sitting right there within one game of each other. So that still could flip-flop either way. And I believe Green Bay's one loss was to the Bucks. So, Green Bay slips one more game and suddenly the Bucks could be sitting there and then number 1 seed. So that's going to be a tight race down the stretch. You're exactly right. The NFC East between the Giants and Eagles is coming down to the wire. They still have one more game against each other in week 17. So that's going to be a big one. And just because you got the lead now, you still got to do your job each week and get a win coming down the stretch here. But then after that, you're right. You got the Vikings that are sitting right there at 8-5. The Saints are sitting there at 8-5. The Bears are, notoriously tough at 8-5. Wow, if Alex doesn't make the playoffs, this will be the first year in a while, I think. So the Seahawks are 7-6, Panthers are 7-6. And then we talked about the Eagles sitting at 7-6, how they're going to jump to the 4 seed, but they still got to play the Giants one more time. And he should have his quarterback, and we'll make sure to point out if he loses that game. Jacob, I'll be in your DM, brother. So yeah, really coming down the stretch, there are a lot of teams sitting in the wings, and you got to do your part and get out there and win each week. Now, if you're in the playoff, if you're in this little playoff race here down the stretch, it can be a good thing because it's really like a playoff game before the playoff games actually start, and how you have to up your game to that next level to keep getting those wins to just get a shot in the playoffs. And as we know, Cinderella has come out before.
Well, I'm going to tell you too, like the Vikings, they're already in the playoffs. Every game he has is against the playoff team. He's got Colts, Giants, Green Bay, and Chicago. There's not an easy game on that schedule. He doesn't get to come to Miami, so he's to stay in that spot there in fifth place. He's going to have to really be on top of his A game. And Seattle's lost 2 of the last 4. The Saints have lost 2 of the last 3. So you might be surprised that the Panthers have actually won 2 wins in a row. I mean, against Denver and against Seattle, 2 good teams. And they did them, 31-12, 38-7. He's winning them decisively. So it sounds like Kevin's kind of got it figured out. But again, he's got Pittsburgh and Detroit, and then he finishes out against Tampa Bay and New Orleans, and he lost both of the early games in the season there. So he's got momentum for sure. So
Yeah. So that's going to be fun to watch down the stretch. On the AFC side, you got myself, Baltimore, and the Texans sitting there within 1 game of each other. So that's going to be a little bit of a tight race down the stretch. I think I have a little bit easier schedule coming down the road, but I still got a tough Browns game I got to play next week, and he's already given me fits always. So we'll see how that game turns out. But then after that, it's again wide open. The Chargers have had a great year taking control of the NFC West, but they're sitting there tied with the Chiefs. Let me check real quick to see if they have a game against each other. But then after that, you got the Jets sitting at 6-6. That could be a fun AFC East battle there. Their closest rival is Buffalo at 4-8.
Who's been coming on? Yeah, that was one of my hot takes. Ever since my hot take on Tom, he's been on a mission. And yeah, looking at Casey, I think his only divisional games is he's going to get a forced win, so he's going to get a benefit this week. And then I think he's got the Raiders coming up the last game of the season, which he won, and he won that one pretty well the last time, 42-24. So, and then he's going to have Denver again, and we have no idea what's going to happen the second time, since they didn't actually run that game, I guess, to the end. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah, I think the Jets are probably in the most tenuous of all the teams in the playoffs. He's coming off 2 losses and actually kind of got his nose bloodied a couple times. He got slapped around by Chicago 31-16 and then Minnesota 31-12. So they're going to have to do some soul searching. Hopefully on their bye week, they did the retreat and they're looking inside themselves, because they're going to have to get things going, because now he's going to go face Phil up in Detroit, who's been playing pretty well. Who knows who he's going to face in Jacksonville, since we had a coach firing there. So yeah, that may be good or bad. Then he's getting a tough Seattle. And then he's got me. But even when we played the last time, it wasn't a walk in the park. I think it was 22-10. And I'm feeling pretty good. I'm feeling pretty good about going out on top. So we'll see how that goes. I'll get my annual spoiler message.
Yeah, that's it. Nothing better to play in spoiler, especially to a playoff team or a team that, is trying to get in the dance. So that's great. I checked on the Chargers schedule. The Chargers and the Chiefs split their series. So the Chargers won 1 and the Chiefs beat them once. So that's going to be a moot point. It's going to come down to conference record at that point. And yeah, you got a tough Spencer Denver crew sitting there within 2 games. Aaron, if he shows up to his games, is sitting 2 games back from a playoff spot. So lots of wide openness coming down the stretch in the AFC as well.
It's weird too, looking at the AFC, it's almost like the opposite of what's happened in the AFC East, because Cleveland, he's been on fire. He's won 4 of his last 5. So he's going to face you, though. He's going to win today. So, and then he's going to face you, and then the Saints, Tommy in Washington, and then Pittsburgh, which that one should be his. He won that one the previous game 40-7. And then, man, the Colts are running the gauntlet too. He's won 4 in a row, but he's going to go up to Vikings, Skull Land, and face John. Then he has to go to face the Chargers. Then he has to face the Giants. And then he has to finish the season facing the Texans, who, because of that elite passing game, beat him 38-35 the last go around. So he's going to have to, he's another team that's going to have to, he's in playoff football already.
Yeah, a lot of fun coming down the stretch for both sides of the race here. If you're in the hunt, do your best. Good luck to you. Keep up the good work and show up, communicate well, play your games, and let's finish off this season strong.
Absolutely.
All right, that's all I got.